Okay, I want to welcome everyone here today. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my special woman. But I'm going to start with the story, coming full circle. We were married in 1980, and a year and a half later, in 1981, we went to our first marriage encounter. And we got done with the marriage encounter, and then sometime during the next week or whatever, they had a ceremony for us to meet the community or whatever. And we're sitting there and sitting in there, and Pat says, I want to talk. So we waited our turn, and we got up in front of the group like this, and she looked out at all those people and she goes, talk. So that's what I mean by we're coming full circle, and so she's got me up in front of everybody again, and anyways, at this time I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Harriet, which is a dear friend, and she's going to say a few words, and then we'll have our opening prayer.
Thank you, Jim. And as I told Jim, and for his family, we are all here for you. We're with you. Good morning or evening or no afternoon. We are in the timeless. It has been such a joy to know Pat. The Lighthouse Center, which is where we are, was her last New Thought Center. And what I love about Pat is, and I discovered this over time, is that she's been in New Thought communities for over 40 years. Over 40 years? Yeah, married and you, yeah. So she's had a lifetime in New Thought. And yet when she came here, there was just this freshness and newness and openness, and she participated one with everybody, no sense of superiority or I've been there, done that. Open. And just, I love her for that. I love her for the vibrancy that she brought to everything that she participated in. So it's an honor to be here and to open in this prayer. So I invite you, for those of you who feel comfortable, to close our eyes. If you'd rather keep your eyes open. Beloved Mother, Father, infinite love, intelligence of this universe, this presence of pure, unlimited, unbounded love that is always love. That is always love. How grateful I am to know that every one of us are enveloped in this love that is beyond time and space. This love that carries through generations, that carries through eons and lifetimes and energies. There are no walls to this love. There's no separation in this love. And how grateful I am that all of us here this beautiful, radiant day, online and in person, are here to celebrate the divine love as Pat. We celebrate the beauty and the magnificence of her soul. We celebrate with so much love for all the gifts that she has brought to each one of us in that special and unique way. For this love that is forever and ever unfolding and will never end, eternal and intimate and passionate and present here and now, that we all are in this wonderful love with Pat. We invite Pat, this presence and this love that she is, knowing and accepting that her heart and her being and her essence is here with us. We feel and know that there is no separation ever. And so with that awareness, we move forward into this beautiful celebration of life service. There has been so much love already in the preparation that brought us to this moment, and we give thanks to all those beings who brought this service, this holy and sacred celebration, into being, into form, so we could be here this very beautiful, magnificent day to celebrate, to love, to care for, to remember, to enjoy, to laugh, and to cry, all with our beautiful, beautiful, beloved friend, and family member, Pat Coker. And so in deep abiding gratitude for all that unfolds as this service here and now, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And I invite all of us to feel that gratitude, breathe it in, and join me now in releasing it and letting it be and saying, and so it is. Amen and amen.
And now we're going to invite up Joni Davis and Dave.
I've never
to
seen
play
him in
for
a
us.
suit
Amazing
before.
Grace. So
I've never seen
need your
him in a
tissues.
suit ever. It's interesting to see him in a suit.
There we go. Hello. This is my musical partner of many years, Dave Gamble. He's got to plug in really quick. So most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Amazing Grace. And the last verse is the same as the first. When we get there, please feel free to join me.
Yes.
Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul. I once was I'm found was not, but now I see 'twas grace that taught my heart to sing. Grace, my feet relief. That grace appeared. The hour I first believed. Many dangers told and snared I have already. Was grace that be saved thus far. Grace, when we've been there 10 years, like sparkling Wednesday to sing God's praise. When we begun, join me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul. But now and now was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see. Thank you, Pat.
And today you're going to hear from a lot of different reverends because there's at least 15 of them that are our friends. So just be patient. We'll get through this. And but anyways, Reverend Andrea is the lucky one to get to follow that. And she is also going to another service today for her mother. So
I'm Reverend Andrea, often known by a lot of my friends here as Reverend Pooh, because I'm very much into Winnie the Pooh. And if you know anything about Winnie the Pooh, he goes with the flow. He's a happy-go-lucky character, and he just enjoys life. Very much like Pat. Going with the flow and enjoying life and everything, always laughing. One of the things that I love about this community is our knowing that we are one with each other. Everybody is connected to everybody. There is no separation. There's only one thing here, nothing else. It's all good. It's all God. It's all everything, regardless of where you are, who you are, what you're doing. And knowing this, it's really nice to have that feeling that you never die, you always go on. And so Pat is always here with us. And even though she's no longer in her body, she is free to be everywhere at once, always present, ever present. I first met Pat in the Fremont Church, and we were in choir together for years. I met her in 2001, and she stood next to me, and she was always dancing. You know, if the choir was like, you know, singing, she's always full of life. We had so much fun. She sometimes would have some difficulty with some of the songs. And so she'd come over to my house, or I'd go over to her house, and we'd work on the songs together because we were in the same soprano group. We had lots of fun, lots of laughs. She was also my chiropractor. She used to adjust me regularly, adjusted my kids too. In fact, she got, according to my daughter, she got all of us hooked on that hippy dippy oil stuff. It really works. So we had a lot of fun doing that too. I was so glad when we moved to this church, a bunch of us came, that Jim and Pat also came to this church, because then I got to see her more often. I moved farther away, and so I didn't see her as much. I now live over an hour away. So I come here and I get to see her, and we'd sit together at all the dinners that we had here. We'd laugh and joke. My favorite thing about Pat is that she embraces the idea of living life just every minute, knowing it's good and being happy in it. I mean, she was always laughing, and I love that. I think that every minute is such a precious gift, and she was aware of that, and she just loved it, and she spread her joy and her sparkle everywhere she went. I would like you to, when you think of Pat, know that she is here, she is happy, She is joyful and she is living her best life as she moves on to her next experience. She's moving on to something that is wonderful and good and beautiful. And it's the people who are behind that generally have the sad feelings and the being upset or whatever it is. But if you think about it, it's like one of the poems that I really like about a ship going off to sea. A ship going off to sea, and there's this big, huge vessel, sails all over the place, just gigantic. And the ship is powerful and magnificent, and it sails off, and people are going, bye. Gorgeous, they love it. Bye, and the ship sails off into the horizon, and then it's gone. And they're all, but on the other side, people are going, it's the ship. It's that wonderful, wonderful ship has come to our place. And they're excited and they welcome the ship, just as she was welcomed with loving arms when she came to this experience. She is welcomed with loving arms as she goes on to her next experience. And I bless her for that. Thank you.
We were going to have Darlene Sykes, but apparently there's some problem on Zoom or something like that. So we're going to just go ahead with Lori, her daughter, and we will get back to Darlene here in just a little bit.
Hello. So, okay, I got too close. Mom was basically just a big kid, and that's what I've seen for the last year and a half. Okay. So, okay, I hear myself there, so I thought it was too much. Okay, all right, good. Okay, we good? That sounds better. All right, welcome. Thank you for coming here. I'm glad she touched so many people. She will be missed. We've had a lot of fun with her. Her last year and a half, she tried to pack in as much as she could because it's like, this is it. So during the summer, she tried to get as many of the family together and asked all the family members, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Well, I guess we could go to Monterey Bay Aquarium. That's something we all like, I guess. So we went to Monterey Bay Aquarium. We stayed at an Airbnb. And most everyone there was bored. But I was following my mother around she had her little walker thing that day in case she got too tired. And I was having a blast watching her watch everything at the aquarium. She would look at the fish and, oh my God, look at those guys. And then we sat at the otter thing and she was watching the otters before they came to feed him. And she's like, there's my otter. He goes back up. Oh, he's coming back down to me. Hey, and she was going off in this and I'm watching this. And then they start to feed the otters and a little girl comes up, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and has basically the same reaction. Oh my God, an otter, hi! We're like, yep, that's Mom. So one of the things we did before that, we went on our last year spring break. Mom wanted to go see the redwoods. And so we went on a long trip on that. And this is something that my child had been asking to do for about a year. By the time we scheduled it, it was like, no, I'm about to be 13, I don't care anymore. But Mom had a blast. One of the things we had to do, though, to keep it fun and fresh, was to come there every time we got out of the car, before we got back into it, we had to listen to this recording that she got. It's a very inspirational recording. And she wanted us to participate fully in this and interactive. And the first few times it was okay, but when you go on a trip almost to Oregon with my mom, there are a lot of pit stops. You have to go to the bathroom every now and then, or every few minutes. So anyway, we had to listen to this. Is it? Okay, okay. If you are able or would like to participate, you might want to stand up, but you could do it from your seat. I will show you.
Please stand. Please, everybody, please.
If you're able.
If you can. Everybody's gonna get up. If you can stand, please do.
This is what she had us do, and her favorite one was the second one, before getting back in the van. And to be safe.
30-second dance party. This is how we party.
The more exaggerated, the better. She wouldn't let you in the van if you didn't do it.
We're back. That's Mom.
Well, now the hula dancers get to follow that, so I don't, I mean, okay. So if you'd like to come up and introduce yourselves and tell us what you're going to present for us. And if we need to move some things around, just let us know. Move this out of the way or whatever works. You'll just have to see what you can do.
Come on, ladies.
I'll move this out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't shy, yeah.
Stay here with me. It's okay. My name is Janice Gonzalez, and we're wearing different costumes because we're representing the Red Hat Ladies Group that and then Phyllis is our Wednesday dance teacher, and so they're wearing the other costumes, so we don't confuse you. Okay, go ahead. But Pat was in our Red Hat Ladies Group, and we always used to wear these crazy little hats and red and purple. And then we all had silly little names, and we were the Hula Hotties. And so when we danced at church, everybody kind of thought, what a name for a group, you know, Hula Hotties, you know. Sometimes the minister didn't understand why we had we'd have to explain the name. But we're going to do To You, Sweetheart, Aloha, so.
Is Rev Dar on the line? If so, make sure your camera's on so they can see you. Okay. Okay, so I guess right at this point in time, we're going to continue on until we get figured out what's going on there. But this is her son, John, and he's going to give a little talk about his mom.
Thank you, everybody, for being a part of my mother's life. My mother was my life. I think of my childhood. I think of only her taking care of me. I think of all the times when we went through the good times, the bad times. Somehow, all I can really remember about it was I was in a very far back passenger side of an old school American vehicle, and somehow from the driver's seat, I was reminded what it's like to be seen and not heard. But because of that, I was blessed with 4 wonderful children, and I never had to discipline them. I mean, I told them I wanted to, but apparently my mom taught me well enough to teach them right. And, you know, for that, I'll always be grateful. I know that a lot of people are against certain habits that we have. And, you know, one of the habits I have is I would love to go to Vegas a lot, but I can't, so I play the scratchers. And I went to pick up the equipment. This is a courtesy of Projection company that I work with. They donated all of this for this day. I went to grab it and bring it here so that Zoom could be a part of this, so that everybody could see better and things like that. And I went to the gas station across the way to, you know, get a scratcher. And why not? Mom, this one's for you. $200. The irony of that is, she also raised me with what's called tough love. If you're not familiar with tough love, it's beating them till they get it right. You know, not exactly, but essentially that's the direction of it. But yeah, she should have known that I needed 250. No, I'm just kidding. But I really, you know, I have 2 heroes. Hero Jim, who's been more of a dad than any dad I've ever known anywhere, in anybody's family. This is the man that showed the example. And the other reason I bring that up is because I also learned from my mother what true love is. I knew they loved each other. I really did. I knew they loved each other deeply. I had no idea how deeply. I watched an unfolding example of what true love is over the last few months. And I want to thank you, Mom, for picking this man to be in our life. My mom was the other hero. She taught me that if you can dream it, you can do it. Now, here's how she did that with tough love. We were in a store. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. I said, Mom, can I have this toy? And she goes, yeah. We get up front, and I don't see the toy. She finished ringing out. I said, where's the toy? She goes, what do you mean? You said you were going to give me the toy. No, I didn't. You asked if you could have the toy. I said you could have the toy. Go ahead and figure out how to get it. Just take it? No, you got to buy it. Can I have some money? No, you said you wanted the toy. I said you can have the toy if you can achieve the toy. That traveled across the board. I've lived such a blessed life because of that. We were a global family. We've been all over the world. In fact, I met this man in Germany. I've been on the Autobahn, you know. But I've also done some really amazing things in my life that I'll leave off the table, but they're all because the way that my mother taught me was you got to go for it. You know, the pin that I wear on my tie, usually I couldn't find it this morning, it says, do it now. There's no need to wait. But my favorite lesson was the last lesson that she shared with me when I got a chance to be with her, knowing that she wasn't going to be with us much longer. And I said, Mom, you've always been my guiding light. What light are you going to leave me with? And she said, in everything you do, in every experience you have, when you're able to make a decision, choose love. And I haven't stopped doing that since that day, and it's amazing the effect it has on the people around you, the people you deal with. We remember that, you know, there's yin and yang in this world, and my mom was definitely the positive, not the negative. And my sister did the one thing that I really was hoping to get a chance to do, and that's get everybody moving. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to just ask everybody to just relax for just a second. And take a couple more breaths. Just chill out, relax. And here, when I say thank you, smile in my mom's honor. Do we have Rev Dar yet? Okay.
Well, I sure don't know how sparkling my talk is going to be, because with Pat, like anybody else, or well, not everybody else, but she had all these different titles, all these different things she did. She had more, she was into more groups than most people have friends. That's all I mean, that's really kind of who she was. So with all those different things and all those different titles, the title that she actually loved the most was grandmother, and I guess most of you can understand that. So it was grandma. So, and actually, even I didn't challenge that title or whatever. I thought about it, and I knew that she loved me deeply, but no, we're not going to try to see if she loves me more than the grandkids, because she loved her grandkids dearly. But other than that, let me see here. I got to back up here just a little bit. And so, yeah, I want to try to tell you who Pat is other than her credentials and all her accolades and all this other stuff that she did. And so I guess I probably have to go way back to when we first got married. She used to get uptight, and, you know, Pat gets uptight. So, okay, so me with my infinite wisdom, I go poke the bear. And she would come unglued. She would scream, holler, yell, sometimes throw things or whatever. And then pretty soon she'd calm down, and I'd say, how do you feel? Oh, I feel good now. Okay, and then she would give me a hug, you know, so it was like that. But over the years, she learned how to control that or whatever, and so that she didn't have that anger and stuff inside. And so, anyway, so when I tried to prepare this talk, ever since she passed away, I went for 2 to 3 mile walk every morning. And it was like, what do I say about this woman? You know, what can I really say? Something that's different or whatever. And so it was during all these walks and stuff. And finally one day the word edgy come to me, and I goes, Pat, edgy? And I goes, I kept walking, and it just kept sticking in my mind. Matter of fact, it still does, you know, Pat, edgy. And so I thought, well, I went back and I looked it up on the computer, and it said anywhere from like fearful to trendsetter. And then with all the synonyms, there was about 10,000 words or whatever, you know. So, you know, I said, okay, sparkling, there we go. Or spirited, yeah. I said, I can go with that one, spirited. So, but the more I thought about it, no, she was edgy. And she, if you've ever traveled with her, she could drive you nuts as a passenger. I mean, she's always saying, well, watch out for this or do that or whatever, you know, and that's because she's nervous, and so that's, and so, yeah, she is edgy. And so, but then later on too, I run across the word there, and I thought, edgy and there. And so that's what I'm going to say about Pat is, over the years, she learned to take that fear and her, I don't know, irritation of other people, and just forget about it and be there with them. Actually, literally be there with them. And so she's done, you know, and she's a very, very good giving woman. Like at our last church, we had one of the members of the church, and she had passed away, and she had no local family. So she took it upon herself to give her a memorial service. And then when one of our other friends or whatever, she had cancer or whatever and was bedridden at home, she called a whole bunch of people in the choir from the church and said, let's go over and sing over at her house. And, you know, that's the type of woman she is. And so, you know, she really cared about people, and by able to not have the fear and the anxiety and everything about it, she was able to be there for people. I mean, really be there deeply. And that's what set her apart. She was different, you know, in that aspect. And so, yeah, I was going to compare her against her diamond ring, because she loved her diamond ring. You know, it's a heart-shaped diamond, and she is all heart. And it isn't perfect. It does have a flaw. And it has what they call an inclusion, which is a hidden flaw. But yet she wouldn't let them fix it, because it wouldn't make it authentic anymore. So, but, and she definitely sparkled. And so there's a lot of things that I could compare about her with as a diamond. She was authentic, and also too, another thing about a diamond is when they put a heart-shaped diamond, when they put that last V in to make it a heart, more than half of them break. So it's actually not usual. So she was a little bit unusual too. So, but, and anyways, I'm going to close with one last statement here, and it says, and I'm going to say, and you can be polite and keep your thoughts to yourself, or you can express them and be opinionated and real. Your choice. And she loved everybody.
You said I need to turn on my video. I can see it.
All right. Well, she's what? All right. Well, I guess it's going to be Darlene Sykes in an upside down world.
But I can't turn myself around.
Turn your phone the other way around up. There you go. Turn it. There you go.
No. Nope. Hey guys, I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure I could hear everything that was going on.
Okay. Well, we have her on the line.
So go ahead with the service. Oh, what? So you're waiting for me to say something? Is that it?
Yes. Tell us your experience of Pat, please.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, and I apologize for interrupting. I've been trying to get on for quite some time. Anyway, let me tell you, Pat, I was thinking about her again today, and I was asking myself one word, absolutely one word, that would describe Pat in my mind from the moment I met her until today. And that word would be uninhibited. I mean, she was truly you know that poem that tells you to sing like no one's listening and dance like no one's watching? That was Pat. That was Pat, because in class, when I turned on the music, and no sooner had I pushed the button, Pat was on her feet dancing. Okay, and she'd turn around and look at everybody else like, come on, guys, don't you feel that energy? And it was just so beautiful to me. And, you know, I really and truly believe everybody that I encounter is a teacher. And Pat was that teacher for me. She was teaching me to be uninhibited. And that's what I saw in her from the very beginning. And that's what I appreciate so much about her. And it was just that enthusiasm, that willingness to just get up and be seen, to be outstanding, outstanding. You know, so it's a way shower. It's like saying we don't have to just sit back and and just melt into the scenery. Stand up and be seen. That's what I got from Pat. And I will appreciate that for all the days of my life. So that's what I have to say.
Okay. So next, we're going to have a clip done by John. And would you like to come up too? And not yet? Afterwards. Okay, we're going to have the clip first. Alrighty.
Couple of remembrances that I was not able to include in this was from Heather and Karen, reflecting on Pat's life so eloquently. Pat's positive and fun outlook on life and her enthusiasm for Kauai was refreshing and inspiring. She was a lovely woman. My favorite memory of Pat was watching her dance. The beauty and love she conveyed will always stay with me. Just pure bliss. The thing I remember most about Pat was her smile. Thank you.
And now we're going to have Jackie Segoli, and that's one of Pat's real dear friends. It's been a friend for, I don't know, she can tell you how many years.
Well, this is one of the few times anybody in the audience that knows me that I'm almost out of words. This is very not common of myself. I've tried to prepare for this, and it was really impossible to take 30 years and to condense it into a short something that would mean something to all of you. However, what I really want people to know at this point is a philosophy that I have that I think is running very true today. And that philosophy is that each of us is a song. And every person that we meet is a note in that song. And there is really only one time today when we can hear that song by what you say about Pat. So the fact that we will a little bit later be able to have more people from the audience say things is important to me, because we need her song to be sung. And each of you in your own way have seen the brilliance. When she said she was sparkling, health begins at Coker Chiropractic. Can we relate or what? Can we relate? I did her business card and made it as sparkling as I could possibly do it, because this woman was definitely a brilliant light. There wasn't a time, well, I can't say ever, but very few times was she ever down. She was always positive. And in the last 2 years, literally, we had what was called Jackie's Lunch with Jackie Zicoli. And we got together, about 6 of us, on Zoom, and were able to become very close friends. And so we saw a lot of the celebration that Pat had when she went to all those places with Jim. It was such a blessing when the doctor said, "When are you going to go on a vacation?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. We thought we'd go here and there." And she says, "Now." Pat says, "What?" She says, "Now." And I don't know who the doctor was, but I thank her very much for allowing that part to come into her life, and so dramatically. The other that I really appreciate the most is, and I'm learning that this weekend quite dramatically, is how beautiful that man is. And how absolutely dedicated he was to this woman. Is. I don't say was, is, because she never dies. It's just our relationship with her that changes. And it's just been beautiful. And I've watched within the last several years how that relationship changed when, you said it was 3 years ago, that you started writing a letter to each other every day. Get a hold of that one. Every day to each other. Well, can you imagine the impact of doing that for someone every day? And I watched as she came, because I'd see her every week. I'd watch, and it became stronger and stronger, how their relationship grew. It was so beautiful. They've had their ups and downs. We all have. But that was the one glue that really brought them to being able to say, she said, "I can really talk to him. I can really let him know how I feel." And it was so beautiful to watch. And this strong man through this whole weekend, no. How many weeks have you been doing? Well, yeah, that's right, for a whole month. Anyhow, to watch how dedicated, it's just been beautiful. It's almost like somebody woke up Jim. At least it was in my world. Somebody woke up Jim, and this is what I'm going to do. I really need to do this for Pat. So everything was, well, Pat wouldn't like that. No, let's do it this way Pat wanted. So it's been beautiful to watch you shine, it really has. And she and I went through a variety of things, lots of things. Peggy with ABWA and different places that we were able to do things together. And the fact that she loved to play was important to me. I love to play, but I don't always let myself do it. So Pat would always let me do it. And of course, the dance is obviously the thing that I loved. And I remember, just as we were talking, I just remember one experience. They went on a cruise, and I don't know if Jim was aware of this, not the one we went on together. They went on, all of us, there were several couples that they went on too. So the second one, they went on, and Jim was tired or something and was in the suite. And so she went out, and she found that someone was having a party. They were having a party, and they were dancing, okay? Now, Pat's not going to interfere in any kind of a party, though she sure likes to dance, and as we all know. So a fellow came out and said, "You want to dance?" Well, here she is, like just trying to not be bored because she's got this party and stuff. And so, "You want to dance?" And she says, yeah. So while the rest of the party is over there doing their things, she's out there enjoying herself, just dancing. So it's so contagious when you think about it, how you can have happiness just by a smile, which she did so well, that cute little, funny little, as you saw in the video, that smirk, that real smirk like, I love life, look at me, I love it. And how could you not love someone like that? So the things I could count on for Pat was a positive outlook, her curiosity, always curious about things. And I think one of the most important things for me was her curiosity about health. Now, if any of you have ever played that game with Pat, you'll realize that she knew certain things. Don't try to contradict her. These were the things in health and chiropractic. She was a master at chiropractic. In fact, my son, my youngest at almost 50, he says, be sure to tell them that Pat was the first chiropractor he had, and she straightened him out. So, humor runs in the family, in case you hadn't figured that out. And he didn't even know he said it until he said it. Anyhow, and she straightened me out because we met each other at the lake Elizabeth in Fremont was the first time, I think. And I was in an accident, and then she did straighten me out and finally got me adjusted many times in my life. The many retreats that we went on with the different groups that we were with were beautiful as well, but it's her positive outlook and being able to really see the positive side of things was strong. And the other things is that she didn't mince words. If a doctor, I remember hearing her talk about the doctors that she spoke to. Give me a break. You're telling me that? Forget it. I mean, she would set them straight and make sure that they knew she was a doctor. Don't mess with me. So I love that about her. She was determined, and so she wasn't a wimp in any way. Let me finish up here. Open to change, open to adventure. And it really wasn't about her. I think I enjoyed that the most. Life wasn't really about her. It was about how she could be in service to others. And she did that so well, as I'm seeing in so many ways that I didn't know she had that depth, which has been beautiful for me. So I just want everyone to sparkle and to think of her. And as Jim and I have said, we know that her life up there is so happy right now. She really is so happy. It's not our loss. It's really a new relationship with her because she really is able to, can you just imagine the brilliance of the purples around her? Just imagine all of the different colors of purple that you can ever fathom. She's right there next to them. Only beside that redwood tree. So remember, Everything in her world was yes. It was yes. And as we were told this morning by Pastor Harriet, it was yes and what is next in your world because you knew Pat Coker. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Reverend Linda Anson. And that's what the cruise picture was. And also at, what's the name of the? At Benbow, yes.
Hi, gosh, what a beautiful group of people. I don't know if you can feel Pat's presence here, but I sure can. And she would be glowing, sparkling with how beautiful the group is, how everybody honored, most people honored the purple, the lavender, because that's what just turned her on. And just the beautiful decorations around, it's just wonderful. And I know she appreciates it. And as far as receiving images or messages from beyond, I got one, a real strong one this morning. I'll tell you a little more about that in a few minutes. But part of it is that her card that I think, is this the one you designed? No, the one with the sparkle. You'll see it on the display. Oh, okay. It just dropped on my desk all of a sudden. And so I know she was giving me a message about something that she wanted me to do today. So it is just beautiful. Thank you so much, Jim, for inviting me to say a few words. This couple is such a big part of our life, Jim and Pat. And every time they would come over, both of them would just have the biggest smiles, and whatever was going on with the kids, the grandkids, or the house, or whatever, never mattered, because when they would come over, they were fully present, and still are. Jim comes over quite often. Got to have his sister Mary over also Friday night. So we are close, and I just love them. And she has played my angel so many times, where all of a sudden she's just there. She shows up at a time that I don't know how I'm going to figure out something, end up with an extra car and not enough cars, or whatever, in a grocery store and not be able to move all of a sudden, just be totally frozen. And she happens to call right at that time. What are you doing? She just knew. She could read it. And she would drive to the grocery store, find me, and help me through that anxiety or whatever it was. And she was in love with love. And she was so loyal to all of her friends and her kids and grandkids. Incredibly caring. And I love that you two wrote those letters every day for years. It wasn't just like a temporary thing. It had been going on for years, and they never missed. Even when she was feeling her worst, it was, part of their being. And I don't know anybody else who does that, but it's really beautiful. And she was so funny, though. There was times when she didn't know she was being funny. We were at this place called Raj, and Bobby Boldy was there, and Dar, who was talking to us, and Pat and I, and it was something that Michael Beckwith and Ricky Byers had put it on in Southern California, and it was such a wonderful thing. Not very well attended, but it was nice having, and there were so many bands there. Chaka Khan was there, and people were dancing, and of course, Pat was dancing. I mean, she wasn't just dancing, she was big dancing. And at one point, there was a African group of dancers coming across the lawn, and she was in front of them, but she didn't realize it. It wasn't a planned thing. But she definitely, it was almost like she had a baton that she was marching in front of them, dancing as she was marching and walking. And she didn't even know until she got to me, and then I told her that she was, did you know you were leading the the dancers. She just couldn't believe it. But I have pictures, so I wish I had gotten it to John so everybody could see it. And I want to acknowledge that we're all a little weird. We're all a little weird. Life's a little weird, isn't it? Some days is weirder than others. And so when we find someone whose weirdness is compatible with ours, we join up with them and fall in mutual weirdness and call it love. And this is from Dr. Seuss. Sounds about right. And one of the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched, must be felt with the heart. And that's Helen Keller. And Jim told me recently that he stands for faith and Pat stands for love. And together, that is such a wonderful coupling. And I've been thinking about that almost every day. It's a beautiful way to live. And in this card, so now I'll tell you about this card. This card fell down, and the message was from this card, two things. One, I hope John still has that button. Is that button still around with the little dance music? Do you have that, John? Can somebody get it? Okay, don't start it yet. So what we're going to do, this is a little bit of participation. I have two participatory things. One is we are going to dance again, but now this time you know it's coming. And, you know, hopefully let yourself be Pat. Just feel that sparkle inside you and stand up preferably, but if you would rather dance in your chair, you can move, you can go and hug somebody, you can do anything you want. You can cry, you can laugh, and just feel that music. It's less than a minute. Okay, so ready? Let's push that button. And thank you. That must have felt good. Did you feel a little bit of energy change? Like Pat entered the room and she was kind of going amongst you? I did. Okay, the last, but the best part is we are going to give a love wash to Jim. And this is what Pat asked for. And I wasn't sure if he'd want it, so I thought I'm not going to surprise him with that. So I did get permission right before we started. So what will happen, sometimes we have music. Today we won't need music. We're just going to, we'll all stand and try to make a little bit of a circle, and then we're going to have Jim stand wherever you want to stand. You can sit there, you can stand here. We'd like you to stand so you can, your whole body can receive. So yeah, right over here, up here. Up here would be good. Yes. So yeah, just ready to receive. Don't cross your hands, just open. Be Pat. Be Pat, yeah. So now our job is just to call out. You don't have to wait for people. There could be 10 people speaking at once. And all of you two on the screen, and just call out a word, something you'd like Jim to receive from you. And okay, here we go.
Joy. Love. Joy.
Peace and comfort.
Sparkling light.
Friendship.
Love and joy.
Fresh air, yeah. The redwoods,
Grace.
Peace.
light.
The mountains.
Hawaii.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Yes, and now we're going to have another clip from Reverend Marian Harris, and that was one of our many unity ministers that we had. So, and actually in that there, Pat, you ended up being what we called in unity there the speaker seeker, because she was always looking for speakers, and it seemed like we were a church that brought people into the ministry and then they went someplace else. So it seemed like we had to go find somebody else. And so so this is Reverend Marianne Harris.
I just decided I'd try to film this on my iPhone and not get fancy with it. My name is Marianne Harris, and I met Pat, and Jim for that matter, in January of 1989. And little did I know on that Sunday that our journey through life would continue for a very, very long time. It was at that time when I had first started at Unity of Fremont, and Pat was just beginning her chiropractic business. So between her office and my church office, there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken. And it became our standard practice that every Friday, she'd call me up and say, "Do you want me to bring over the lunch?" And I'd say yes, and I already knew what it was going to be, the 2-piece white meat Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so it was those times that we celebrated and shared sort of the frustrations and the memories of being, new business owners, if you will, struggling to figure out what to do with our time, what to do to promote our business. And of course, got talking about personal issues and family and friends. And it cemented a relationship that lasted over a lifetime. We all have a lot of memories of Pat. She had that sort of elfin magic, if you will. She had a childlike wonder of life and of the universe, and she was most comfortable out in nature. And although sometimes she struggled to articulate and express herself, she never lost that sense of wonder and that sense of enjoyment in life and in her own life. And I thought it was so wonderful when she told me early on this year, there's just one thing that she really felt she wanted to or needed to accomplish before she passed. And that was the creation of her book, The Messages from the Redwoods. And I was so pleased when she told me that she had finally gotten it done, not ever really realizing the magnitude of the work she and Jim and others had put into it. And when I finally got my copy, I thought, what a special gift, because it really was everything she struggled to articulate in life. She left us with those messages for the rest of our lives and her legacy to all of us. So to Jim and Lori and John and the family, I wish you all the peace that passes all understanding, the grace of God that knows that although Pat is gone from physical form, and that we all miss her physical form, her laughter and her just way of being in life, to remember that her spirit and her heart goes on forever as we share our memories that live forever in us. So thank you for asking me to participate. Sorry I could not be there at this moment in time, but hopefully I gave you just a little tiny picture of a very complex, beautiful soul who we all knew and loved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gives us some even more insight of this wonderful person. Now we're going to open it up for anyone in the group. Remember I told you about those notes that are part of Pat's song? What note do you play that will reflect to us what Pat meant to you? Are there any people in the audience that would like to speak? Go ahead.
I met Pat shortly after Reverend Mary Ann did, when my sister and my mother and I walked into Unity of Fremont in November of 1989. And it was a sort of fledgling community. I think there was only 20 people on a Sunday in this tiny little storefront. Rick Hood was there. And the following spring, I stepped out and started a choir as choir director of 5 singers. And one of them I welcomed was Pat Coker. And I think, Jim, were you in that first 5? I remember Pat, though, because she was so thrilled. John talked about being raised with tough love, and I'm sure that she was raising you the way she knew to be raised. She told me that no one had ever let her sing before. And she loved me so much for giving her the room and the permission and the ability to do what she loved and to make a joyful noise. And that just filled my heart to enable that. The other memory I want to share has to do with how I became a chiropractic patient as well. In that choir, my mom was the accompanist and musician for the church. My sister was the song leader, but at that time, she was a new mom, I believe. And at the end of a choir season, Pat gave, as a token of appreciation to my mom and I, Levon Oliver, a free chiropractic adjustment. Now, we both had chiropractic care. I'd been in a pretty bad car wreck, and I had mixed feelings about it because sometimes they hurt me. Neither one of us expected this little thumper thing to do anything. But we went to be polite because, you know, we loved her, but really? Well, I was her patient until she couldn't care for me anymore. And so was my mom until she couldn't go and be cared for anymore. Pat was an amazing chiropractor, a huge heart. I'm glad, Linda, that you brought up what Jim also told me, that in their marriage, Pat, Love, married Jim, Faith. And you are an amazing couple. You're bonded forever. I love you. I love Pat. Thank you.
Okay, Peggy, come on up.
It's hard to believe. When I first met Pat, I didn't like her. She was so childish. And I was like a professional, and so, you know, like, and our minister, I think it was Mary Ann, I'm not positive, she says, Peggy, you need to have a prayer partner. We all have to break up in prayer partners. And you and Pat are prayer partners. I said, oh. But I learned how to be a child. I learned that it was okay to be childish, you know, but I was like, I'm trying to be I'm trying to be a grown-up, you know. And this was what, I don't know how many years ago, but it was at Unity of Fremont where we met, yeah, I think. And so, and it was, we were very different in our, you know, our view of life, and I would get a renewal of how to be a child again from Pat. So thank you, Pat.
on, Harriet.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other Reverend Harriet. How many of you have had a chiropractic treatment with Pat somewhere along? Oh, lots of us. Okay, lots of us. Okay. Now, how many of you had the experience of that little jingle that she used to sing at the end of her treatment? And I know that she truly meant what she was saying in that little jingle. So if you want to join me, let me say that little jingle. I think she'd want us to believe that. Every little cell in your body is happy. Every little cell in your body is well. Glad. Every little cell in your body is good. Every little glad. So good. Every little cell in your body is well. Little cell in your body is happy. Every little cell in your body is well. Thank you, Pat. Okay. Every little cell in your body is well. It is.
Beautiful. Everybody knew that.
I'm Jim's youngest sister. He always says he's the rose among the thorns. He's got 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, but he is a rose. He's great. But I met Pat, of course, when she came home. My brother come home from the Air Force finally. You know, when you're a little sister and you look up to your brother, my big brother, that always seemed to protect me at times. But other times he wasn't so protecting. He was kind of mean. But he come home, and it wasn't long after he come home that Pat and you got together, but yeah, she was different from us girls, you know, and it was hard to accept because a lot of times you want people to be like you are, you know, because a lot of times different people just don't fit, but she was so loving, and that's the thing that Pat really brought to our family. Our family didn't hug until she came around. And that's when, yeah, she seemed to bring that love to our family. I mean, we were a very close family, and we did a lot of things together, but it was more doing things than really expressing emotion and love. And, but when she come around, she did that, and I hate to say it, but my brother's name for me when I was little was Dummy. But Pat's like, no, she is not a dummy. And we are to build our sisters up and to love our sisters. And so for that, I'll be forever grateful for Pat. And I love my brother too.
Okay, we have another one. And then we'll go to the Zoom. Okay.
I'm one of the patients, and thanks to Pat, I'm walking. I remember Pat not for the fact she helped me walk or how happy and she was dancing. I was at home going through the worst night of the soul, and she brought me deviled eggs. If you had ever tasted her deviled eggs, it was magnificent. It was during COVID. Nobody was visiting anybody. Nobody was going anywhere. And I was so down. And here comes Jim and Pat delivering Christmas. I don't know remember if it was Christmas or what it was, but it was little hearts and deviled eggs. And I'm telling you, it lifted me up so much, and I will never forget that. She was so wonderful. Thank you.
My name's Jill, and she was my chiropractor and my fellow choir member, and I agree with all the wonderful stuff that everyone is sharing, but what I want to talk about with Pat are her struggles. Because she suffered, I think, probably her whole life from probably anxiety and fears of self-worth, and she really had her struggles. And she was really honest with us about her struggles. You know, some of us want to try to cover up when we're not feeling well, when we're having the dark night of our souls. Pat could or wouldn't cover up. She just shared. She shared all of herself with us. She shared all the love and the joy and the sparkle and the beauty. And she also shared her struggles, and especially these last couple years. You know, she'd get a visit at the doctor's, or she'd get another scan, or whatever diagnosis, and she was just right out there and shared with everybody, like, yeah, this has set me back, this is tough, and then she'd ask for help. She didn't hesitate to ask for help, for prayers, for treatment, for just a smile, a hug, anything. And then she'd feel better, and she'd share that. She'd shared her struggles, and she shared her recovery, and she shared her weaknesses, and she shared her strengths. And I appreciate that she was so honest with her struggles, because we can stand all day and talk about the love and the joy but we all have our struggles. And to have someone so openly and honestly share with us what she was going through, even when it wasn't good, was such a gift to all of us. And I have learned so much from Pat because of the struggles that she shared. And so I just thank her for that. And I do still love her joy and her laughter and her smiles and her jokes and the little songs, and I love all of that too. But thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace, and apparently I am a very new friend of about 10 years. I am one of the hippy-dippy oil people that worked with Pat, but I got to experience so much more with her. I met her through the oils, and I remember the night that I met her, I came home to my husband and said, I met a woman and I want to be like her when I grow up, because she wore these bright, beautiful, bold colors. She had these chunky earrings that were sparkly, and she just had so much joy that it would overflow out of her, and everyone felt good and everyone felt comfortable. And I remember coming home and telling him that night, I met a woman and I want to be just like her when I grow up. And I love her for being that example for me. I love her for her joyfulness, her dance, which everyone has mentioned. And I remember going to doTERRA's annual convention, and there was this thing called Aroma Dance. And she and I were the only ones in our group. There were like 35 people with us, and she and I were the only ones that went, and we gallivanted around, and we danced so joyfully and soulfully, and I have a picture of us, and we were just glowing after the experience. It's one of my favorite memories. One of my other favorite memories that I wanted to share, there was a while that she was struggling with her eyes, with her vision, and she was having a hard time driving places. And we would go, there was about 2 years that I lived near her, and there was a monthly meeting that we attended down in Saratoga, and the agreement was that she would come to our place, and I was caring for my father-in-law, who was about 80 at the time. But she would come to my place, and we would get into the car. My father-in-law would come with us to our oil meetings. Well, I had a two-door. It was lifted a little bit up higher, and I said, you know, Pat, Papa's has some mobility issues, and you're the young one. You're gonna have to get in the back. And she was so excited. Oh, I'm the young one. Oh, I'm so vital. Oh, absolutely, I'm limber. And she climbed back there. But then we got to the destination, and we couldn't get her out of the truck because it's, you know, a little bit higher, and she's sticking one leg out, and she's trying, and we are falling over laughing. It took us nearly 20 minutes to get her out of this vehicle. And I still drove us every month, but we decided we were gonna take her four-door from that point forward. So I just wanted to share some of my memories with her. I got to go to hula class with her. There was one time that she brought me as a guest. I had to get a special pass because I wasn't old enough to get in at the senior center, and I just felt so loved every time that I was with her. And I love that she was a part of the Red Hat Society. And so it's so funny to me. I didn't know she was a part of the Red Hat. I didn't get the memo about the dressing in purple today. I said we got a pass with my purple hair, but does everyone here know what the Red Hat Society is or where it comes from? For those of you who don't, I actually pulled this book out today because I was thinking of her and this poem came to mind. I didn't know that she was a part of it, but it's from a poem called Warning, and it's by Jenny Joseph. And it says, "When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple, with a red hat which doesn't go and doesn't suit me, and I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say, we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I am tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example for our children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple." So, thank you.
Okay, any other brave soul? Well, we do have a Zoom audience, and I'd like to start with Chris. Chris, could you unmute, please?
I am unmuted. Thank you so much. I've been listening this whole time about a wonderful lady that I grew up with. I was John Helger's best friend for the last 40 years. I'll let that sink in a little. The responsibility that Pat gave me at the age of 11 was to take care of her son and make sure he didn't get in trouble. And I've soon figured out how far that apple didn't, fell from the tree. Where, I had this best friend that I love dearly, and then I had this relationship with his mom, and it figured out really quickly the goofiness and the unconditional love and the spirit, where that came from. Right. And Pat really helped us kids. I'm 50 right now. John's probably a little older than I am now. And we needed a push in the right direction. We really did. We were lost. And I had this whole thing prepared of what I was going to say, but that just came to the surface because at the moment that we needed unconditional love, that's what she gave us. And she pushed us. And she was there for us. And if it wasn't for the metaphysical approach that she had to life, I wouldn't even have met my best friend. right? It was right place, right time at 11 years old. She taught us the lesson of self-love, right? I love myself the way I am. And there's a song about it. I'm sure you've heard it. It really resonated as a young preteen at that point, with all the trouble we were about to get into, to have a base of love to come back to, right? So we always kind of think about when people are getting to the end, I suppose, if they did everything they needed to do, or did they fulfill all their whys, of why they're here. And, I first thing I thought of when I heard this happen was, if there's one person on earth, I can clearly say, absolutely, lined up with their why, it was Pat Coker. Her why of unconditional belief in others, her why of love for everybody. It's like if you took a bottle of pure love, liquid love, and a bottle of carbonated water and bubbles and mixed them together, and boom, that's her. And it was uncontrollable, blessed goodness of sparkling love. That's what it resonates with us over the last 40 years. But I did promise John I'd do something for him. So I'm going to read that poem by Nancy Turk on the back of your program there as a favor to John. Shine on, beloved sparklet, you truly are a star, decorating heaven with who and what you are. You never met a stranger. You made each one your friend. Your life was one of service, listening without end. From crazy bra lady to mom with a song, enthusiastically guiding, you couldn't go wrong. Though you were dyslexic, you mastered chiropractic, you healed the injured and the septic. You gave to God and everyone, teaching seminars and having fun. By example, you led the troops with grandkids and discussion groups. You showed the way, took time to play, and were dancing every day, yet you never forgot to pray. There was naught you couldn't do. Your belief was full and true. PCRDC, we so love you. That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect, because that summed it all up. I give my love to everyone there. I wish I could be there in person. John, I love you, bro. Your mom was a special lady, and I'm so honored to know her. That's all I got, and so it is.
Okay, the rest of you that are on Zoom, once we get it back to the gallery, you'll notice on the bottom it shows reactions. There's a little button that shows reactions. If you open that, you will get a place you can put your hand up. And since I can't see the gallery, I can't see any hands. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, at least you can see it. That's good. Thanks.
So I'm Nancy's daughter. So this is kind of my opening. I was going to have Mom unmute with me if she wanted to. She's Mom's oldest friend. I've known Pat since those crazy bra days, all my life, for as long as I can remember. And unconditional love, that's something that she gave us out of the blue. Last Thanksgiving, she gave me a call. I don't think I talked to her in 5 or 6 years, but it was just like yesterday. I always felt loved. I always felt accepted. And I just think that she would want all of you to have a quest. And that is, will you please all, every day, take a 5-minute dance break just for yourself. Love you all. Thanks for loving Pat. I'm going to miss her so.
Just want to mention that she sent a huge amount of flowers that showed up the night before Mom left us. And so she was able to enjoy that. And I wanted to thank you for that in front of everybody.
Oh, no, you know, those were purple roses only because Mom knew that that was the perfect bloom.
In fact, the last time that I spoke to her, the night before she passed, she said, "I am so excited. My house is filled with flowers." And she says, I can't believe how beautiful they are. I'm going to sit by the back and look outside. And as used to have the cat look and see the mice, the birds that were running around, she said, "I'm enjoying just being peaceful and watching and having the flowers all around me." So I had no clue that was going to be the last time I spoke with her. Okay, who else is on there with their hand up? Is there one at the bottom? Yeah, I can't tell who you are. Yeah, down here. Teresa, Chuck.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes.
Chuck, unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear us now? I don't know. Jim, can you hear us? Jim Coker.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, tell Twitty instead, okay. Tell Teresa we'll talk to her in a minute. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have Glenn. We aren't going to have anybody.
Hello?
Hello, Jim? Jim, are you there?
There we go. Okay, that's good. Go for
Jim?
it. Go for it.
Lori?
Hardly.
Lori, Jim, Johnny? John Boy? Little Johnny? It's Teresa.
We hear you.
Okay. Thanks for doing such a good job of this. We wish we could be there. I met Pat a little over in 1960, Texas. A couple years after I entered the Texas. I was a farm girl from Indiana. She was a farm girl of the dairy farm in Texas. Very different people. She was a year older. Our birthdays are close together. We started liking each other over a very strange incident at a little school dance that my mother forced us to go. And her and Pat became just kindred spirits of the world of dance. And we met there. And then years later, Lori was born, our beautiful baby in Colorado. I was there. And then Johnny, and raising children. And then we have two, Giselle and Eric. That is truly my oldest friend in the world. And our lives were very different at times, but we've always been in contact. And she was the optimistic happiness. Her mother was more a little solid, a little bit more quiet person. So we kindled together. And my mother was this optimistic happiness person who always danced. Her and Pat always danced. So it's kind of an interesting teenage years in Texas. Anyway, and I will miss her. She grew into an amazing woman. I saw her only a few years ago when Jim brought her up. And Jim, I want to thank you for always being there for her. And that's all. Have a good day.
Great to see you guys. Love you.
Jim, stay in touch. Yeah, we can get off of this now.
Glenn, would you like to speak?
Sure.
Glenn?
Yes. Can you see me now? I'm unmuted. Hi.
Yeah,
Hello.
there you go.
It's wonderful to see everybody. That's the celebration of life for Pat is truly a celebration. I know that she's with us now. A couple of months ago, I went over to Judy Coates's house in Sequim, Washington, and there on the table on her desk was Pat's book in the redwoods. And I stepped back. I went, wow. The connections that Pat and Jim have with the world around them is unending and exquisite. Last time I talked to Pat was probably maybe a week or 10 days before she made transition. And I called and she answered, and she said, well, she's on hospice, and she says they're doing everything they can to make me comfortable. And she says, I think they can do that for 10 years or so. I thought, what an attitude, what an attitude. So many times I was at Pat and Jim's house because they hosted book studies and discussion groups. And those times will always be precious to me. Her as a host and Jim as her as hostess and Jim as host was something that it was like a miniature version of the Great Spirit. It was the host of hosts. Her heart, and Jim as well, I mean, truly they worked as a couple. The hearts were so big that you couldn't help but feel loved when you walked in. And you couldn't help but feel even more loved when you walked out. And those times I'll carry with me into the next dimension. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Pat. And thank you, Jim. And Pat, I'm going to give you a standing ovation. Good job.
That was great. Is there anyone else? Again, I can't. Jana?
Hi,
Go ahead, unmute
Dana and
yourself.
Michael. We're Jim's sister's kids, and we were talking about this as we're watching. And Dorothea, so she was talking about family and the fact that they didn't hug, and we both looked at each other and went, "What?" Because we don't know life without Pat. We're the youngest cousins, and we're the last to come into that family, and we don't know. We just don't know the world without Pat. And so we were just talking about how much joy she's brought into our lives, and thinking about our mother. Sorry. And I know that my mom really loved Pat. And I think it was because they both had that similar joy. Pat was such an encouraging spirit, and she'll be missed here by us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it was just such an interesting thing to hear what Dorothea had to say, and then to see the life we had, after Pat came into our world, before we were even here, and what an impact she's made on our family. And so as I tear and cry, just be out of joy for the impact she made on our lives and on the whole Coker family. So just lots of love to Joy and the whole family, and Uncle Jimmy, we love you.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Joyce. I'm getting an echo. I'm Joyce Hammond. I live in Texas, and when Pat would come to Texas to take care of her brother Jim, she would always stay at my house. Anyway, she would stay at my house and we'd play every day. We'd take her brother Jim to lunch because he loved to go to lunch. So I have to tell a funny story about one of those lunches. We were driving into a complicated parking lot to get to the restaurant. And I did all the driving when Pat was here with me. And Pat's starting to give me directions, and her brother Jim in the back seat is starting to give me directions. And it's a tight, quick parking lot changeover, and there's cars coming. And I had to tell them to shut up. So it was the only sharp comment I'd ever made to Pat. And they both quickly shut up. And she turned to Jim and told him he was talking too much. I just thought it was funny that it was immediately only Jim that was talking too much. But we had a lot of fun when we were here, and she taught me about her dyslexia and how she managed it. And I taught her how we could manage driving together by letting her know that the only thing she was allowed to read when we were driving was the exact directions that were in the green bar across the Google Maps. And she followed every rule I made about driving, and we were always happy campers, and we were delightfully happy every time she came, and I miss those visits terribly. And she changed my life forever. I love you, Pat. We'll miss you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Carrie, you're up.
Thanks so much. It's one of the Thursday group girls with Ginger. I know she's
Hi.
here too. And one of the things I wanted to say is about growth. The women on that group are always continuing to grow, and Pat as well. And also, she gave everybody the grace to grow as much as from what I understand, learned to give herself the grace. I did know Pat, I don't know, 28 years ago, I guess, Jackie, I'm not sure how long it's been. And then I moved far away, and then we got to come back together on Zoom. And that has just been an absolute blessing.
Harry?
Yes.
I'm part of that group. I called it the Thursday Girls. And it took me a real long time being coaxed to join it. Jackie was always saying, you've got to meet this woman. You got to meet this woman. You're so much alike. You're so much alike. You got to meet her. You got to meet her. And okay. So we met, and we immediately recognized that we were sister souls in so many areas. And what I learned from Pat was that the intensity of gratitude sometimes overshadows the reality. And one of you that spoke about the sufferings, and we had this connection, and through it all, through the sufferings, there was this intense sense of humor and appreciation and growth. And I shall be infinitely grateful to find a true sister soul. Love you, Pat.
Thank you, guys. That means a lot for you to be on here, because all of us, we're still very close. And to be able to reflect the growth that we saw throughout those years is beautiful. Thank you both very much.
Well, we found time, and that in itself, I think, is the big compliment, because they're all very busy people, professional people. We have our goals, we have our challenges, but I don't think there's one Thursday that we didn't look forward to, and we would get to the point where we would count the minutes, and that will always be in my heart. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, do we have anyone else? Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm going to be real quick. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, Jim, you can't get mad at me for telling this story, okay? I was a part of Unity of Fremont, and that was the first church I kind of went to on my own as an adult. Being brought up in Catholicism, you follow your parents, and this church was just so alive and free. And we used to go on this retreat to, I'm getting chills right now all over my body. We used to go on this retreat to Villa Maria del Mar, I think the name of it is, and beautiful retreat center. And Jim and Pat, you know, I met them together. So it's not like I met Pat first or Jim. So when you say Pat, you say Jim. When you say Jim, you say Pat. And we were standing in line, Pat and I, to get breakfast. And I said, oh, those beds are a little small and a little springy. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to tell this. Sorry. And I go, how did you sleep? She goes, we pushed the beds together, took the crucifix off the wall, and we slept like babies. And she winked at me. And I knew exactly what had transpired. And she always had that love for Jim every time she said his name. And I didn't get to see that a lot growing up. So Jim and Pat, you know, Pat as a woman and as a wife, but Jim and them together showed this love that I've truly never seen on this planet. So I am grateful. I haven't seen Pat and Jim in a long time, but I just had to tell that story because as soon as they were little small beds, pushed them together, took the crucifix off the wall, and we had fun and we slept great. So I'm just going to remember that story forever. And thank you for letting me share.
Go ahead. We'll see. I don't think she's muted. That's just this one here. Go ahead. Give it a try.
She's still muted.
Did you unmute? Go ahead and unmute and then speak. Lower left corner, it says mute or unmute. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back. Nancy, you're on.
Hello. I've known Pat since 1973. And the first words she ever said to me were, how would you like to be a size 36D? And I'm going, what? She proceeded to invite me to a Memory World Lady Cameo custom fit bra party. I went to that party that night and we have been friends for the rest of our lives. She and I have gone places that I don't know, I never would have gone if it hadn't have been for Pat. She'd call up and she'd have a seminar she wanted us to go to. We'd go to that seminar. She'd call up and she wanted us to go to Marriage Encounter. We'd go to Marriage Encounter. All kinds of things. Pat always had a wonderful brand new idea. And I guess what I always admired about Pat was the fact that she could turn a dark cloud silver in a moment. She didn't have much money when I met her. She was selling those bras and she was making a fortune because she was good at it. She would call up and it was the shock value. She'd come in and people would, expect something kind of every day. And she'd come up with, how would you like to be 3060? And she rose to the top of that multi-level marketing company. Anytime she ever did anything, she did it with gusto and she did it well. She did her chiropractic. That was almost impossible. When I met her, she was, a bra salesman, and then she became a chiropractor. And then she was able to run seminars and do things at her church. She was just amazing. There wasn't anything Pat couldn't do. And I have to say, she's the friend I will probably miss more than anybody in my life. And I'm just so glad that Pat was a part of that life. Thank you. And God bless you all. I'm so glad you were there.
Thank you. Joy, you guys figure out the mute? Still didn't do it. Okay. Anyone else? I think we pretty much got the whole crowd. Speak now or ever hold your peace. I would like to.
I have something I'd like to say. I'm sorry. I am. There I am. I'm Barbara Caldwell, Reverend Barbara Caldwell, and Pat I came into my life at the at church. And she took me to Marine World and we swam with dolphins together. She was just so fun. And that was a very dark time in my life. And to have this wonderful experience, I still have the picture of us swimming with dolphins. And I know she's moved on to make other people's lives as bright as she made mine. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Now, we've spoken a lot about the things that Pat and Jim have done in their lives and all the wonderful things that she has accomplished, but probably one of the most important of all of that is the birth of her children and their children. So if they would like to speak.
Not if they would like. Can I get the grandkids to come up to the stage, please? You might need to go get her. You know, my mom kind of got tired of raising me after a while. I made it kind of challenging here and there. But turns out I was able to get back in her good graces when I had Johnny. Come on up on stage. So this is my first son, Johnny. This is my second son, Justin. This is my oldest daughter, Nicole. And Katie, I don't know if you're on Zoom watching or not, but because of them is why I got to be close to my mom again. Everybody said this and that about the grandkids. I didn't want them to not be represented here. So now y'all see her inspiration for a lot of the things that you talked about. So, yes. Thank you. Love you. And here's the fourth one.
Yeah. She's not going to. One with a really cute hat is another one of them. Pat's hat. Come on, Nico. Just come up and bow. You don't have to say anything. Nico, you want to just come up and say, wave, whatever you feel like? We're just introducing the grandchildren. Just turn around. And just say hi, everybody. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to close with the prayer that I think, or not really prayer, it's a poem that I think is very descriptive of what's happening. And I want you to just open up and feel this poem. I think it really brings the whole thing forward as to what's happening. And it's by Paula Halton. Hatton? Oh, I got that wrong. Sorry about that. She steals away quietly in a tiny corner of the day when no one is looking. It's a slip of a moment when all the loving care that has carried her through these months no longer weighs her down, but gives her the freedom to move on, to put on the angel wings that have been waiting for her at the door. She doesn't remember when they first arrived, but there was a smile on her face when she saw them. They are lighter than air, resting easily on her shoulders. As she looks back, saying goodbye to a life and to the people she loves, she nods her head, knowing that she will see them again. Then turning away, the hands of those who have gone before reach out to her with a gentle laugh, and she lifts away into the light and the skies beyond to the adventure that awaits and her new home. So we have refreshments in the back. Please socialize because you have a lot in common. So build on that commonality, please, and let's see what we can come up with that will sparkle the rest of your day. And one last quote from Gary Spence. Please be open to wonder rather than closed by belief. Thank you.
And if we could just leave Zoom open for a little while, just leave that up. People on Zoom, if you want to stay with us, you know, we'll stay open for a little bit. Thank you so much, everybody who's been here. My family is truly blessed. Thank you. Thank you so much, you did. But you lit everybody up, that's for sure. Special thanks to the church for letting us have this here. Thank you so much, Lighthouse.
Mm.